I think we can make a start. So a big welcome, everyone, for joining us today in the Language Teaching Takeoff webinar series, where we are focusing on making the most of the most powerful generators within the TeacherMatic Language Teaching Edition. My name is Giada, and I worked in the language education sector for the past 7 years. I'm now part of the Avallain team, where we are committed to making the most of the innovative and effective tools for educators. And today we have Nik Peachey, who's hosting the webinar titled Generate, Engage, and Assess, Create Custom Text and Multiple Choice Quizzes. For those of you who don't know Nik, Nik is an award-winning educator, author, and educational technology consultant with over 30 years of experience in the field of language education. He specializes in integrating emerging technologies, including generative AI, to improve teaching and learning. And before we begin, a few practical notes. So you are welcome to submit all the questions that you have using the Q&A tab that you can find just here below on Zoom. And we'll aim to address as many questions as possible towards the end of the session. And also note that the webinar is being recorded and the recording will be shared via email after the event next week. So with that, let's just get started. And Nik, I'm very happy to pass it on to you to start today's session.
Great, thanks very much. And thank you for everyone for coming along, whether it's your morning, evening, afternoon. Here it's 12 midday, so I'm not sure whether to call it morning or afternoon. I guess it's 2 minutes past, so it's afternoon, isn't it, officially? Okay, as I'm seeing that you've all discovering the chat, what it would be nice for you if you could use the chat just quickly to type in what your job role is, kind of basically what you do, and whether it's your first time coming to one of these webinars or whether you've previously been to one. Okay, so something about your job role, what you do, whether you're a teacher, teacher trainer, administrator, and whether it's your first time or not. I'll just give you a couple of minutes to do that while I get my presentation onto the screen. And I'll rearrange things a bit. Okay, good. Just having a look at those to see what's coming through. First time project. Okay, great. Thanks. It's really handy to know how many times you've been before and what you're teaching. That should help me to sort of personalize it a bit more. Just seeing if there's any more coming through. Okay, so in this session, we'll be looking at basically an introduction to TeacherMatic and what my relationship is with TeacherMatic and the Avallain team, and then we'll look at a range of generators, the full range, and then go into specifically looking at the text generator, or text creator, and the one, I think I've got the wrong presentation. That's not so good. Why is that coming up? Okay, I'm going to swap presentations here. Hopefully I've got the right one this time. Either that or my changes weren't saved. Apologies for that. Yeah, text generator and no. Okay. Okay, so we'll be looking at generating text and then we'll look at generating multiple choice questions to go with that. I've been working with TeacherMatic for quite a while now, probably I think it's over a year now, maybe a year and a half. And originally, you know, I started working with them after meeting Ian at a conference in Lisbon, and where I was talking about AI, and he gave me access to TeacherMatic to look over it, and we looked at how to adapt it from what was at the time mainstream teaching, I call it mainstream anyway, to more specialist, we're specialists, aren't we? Specialist teaching in languages. And we looked at how it could be adapted for those things and made to work for those things, which I was very happy to do. And then especially looking at how to make it accurate according to the Common European Framework of Reference, which I know was kind of a big issue for a lot of teachers and trainers when they were using kind of generic chatbots. Sorry, hard to say that one. Generic chatbots. Often they were giving responses that weren't sensitive to the Common European Framework of Reference, even though they said they were. So we've done a lot of work on that and making sure that TeacherMatic is or as close as can be achieved. TeacherMatic actually has a collection of over 40 plus generators. Just to clarify what I mean by generators is that a generator is like a pre-programmed prompt. So if you maybe you don't know, but if you do know, if you go into a standard sort of chatbot, you have to write a prompt. You have to write a prompt that tells it what you to do. And in a way, this is a little bit like writing a computer program. And if you're not very good at it, which a lot of people aren't to begin with, they don't get very good results. Whereas what TeacherMatic have done is they've created these pre-programmed prompts that you can then customize so that it becomes much easier to get good results from the AI behind it. And so that saves you a lot of learning curve in terms of producing prompts, and it means that they can develop prompts that are for specialist applications, so that you don't have to learn every prompt that you need to use separately. So that's a great way to save a lot of time for you. And especially if you're as a school, if you've got multiple teachers, then some of them will be better at prompting than others, whereas this can offer you much more sort of standardized response. And of course, within TeacherMatic as well, all those prompts and the outputs from those prompts can be saved. And so teachers can come back to them. And so that, again, that helps you standardize things across an organization that you can't do with just sort of one person going to a generic chatbot. So there are lots of advantages in that way. And of course, as you'll see, probably when you look at this screen, you can see that lots of these are in beta. So they are adding new ones all the time. And so you have a growing resource there, and a resource that's being improved all the time. Okay. And those are sort of some of the advantages of these things. They adapt your content, they can check level, they can create sentences, questions, they can create discussions. There's lots of different ones there for you to choose from. So, when I'll give you a link later on to try out the language teaching version, and you can go and try out some of these for free. Okay. And you'll see in a bit more detail. So for this session, the first thing we're going to look at is create a text, and then we'll look at how to make some multiple choice questions about that. And this is sort of what the text generator looks like when you create a text. You choose a topic, you can include specific grammar points or keywords, you can choose the level of it in terms of the CEFR, you can choose the length of it as well. We'll go on to it and have a look at a live version of this. So this is what the live site looks like. I'm live now, and this is the create a text one. And I just click on use when I want to use it. Just as an additional point before we go to try it out, there's a little eye here which has general information here. And you'll see that there's one on all of these generators. And if you click on the eye, it will give you some information about how to use it. So if you don't kind of follow everything that's happening now, or you want to try out some of the other generators when you get a look at the free trial, just click on that little eye and it'll give you some information about how to use it and what to do and what the different parameters are. Okay, so let's look at create a text. When I click on it, it opens the fields here. Okay, and I've got a list of fields. So the first one is a compulsory one, and it asked me to choose a text type. So I can choose, it's suggested some like story, news article, any essay, but it could be something like a poem, a drama script, or something like that. If you want to type in a suggestion for what kind of text type you'd like me to develop, then you can put it in there. Otherwise, I've got a few ideas about ones that I could use myself. And again, in this one, the what to include, you can suggest a grammar structure, or you could put in a group of words. So if teachers were teaching a specific lexical set and they wanted them contextualized within a broader text, they could just sort of type in their lexical set of words. It could be for sort of revision purposes or something like that. Then, of course, the next one down is the CEFR frame of reference. So you can choose a level for it if you want to. Again, be careful with this though, because it's not worth, if you decide that you want your grammar examples to be third conditional, then obviously don't put in A1, because you have to match your grammar structures against something that's an appropriate level. And then you can describe your students if you want to. So you can give it a particular learner profile. And again, putting things in about your students' interests might mean that or your students' cultural backgrounds will mean that the text that you get at the end of it that it generates will be much more likely to be something that your students are going to want to engage with. There are a few other options here, these optional things. You could upload a file. So if you had a file that of words or a text that you already have that you wanted it to be based on, that's possible. Or you could put in a transcript. Or if you wanted, you could use a website, a link to a website where there's already a text and it could adapt from that. There are some other options. This is an optional setting here again, and this is learning needs. You could ask for things like if your students have specific learning needs, you could include that too. These are blinded out at the moment, but you can just add those. And like within the learning needs, there's things like speech language disorders, visual impairments. And what it will give you is a list of tips concerning the way you teach with those. Okay, so let's go. I'll have a look at instructive text on how to make something. Okay, so that's a nice suggestion. So I'll copy that in. So that's my suggestion, instructive text on how to make something. I won't put in a list of words to include because that might confuse it. I'll stick with my 15-plus-year-old students. We can select an A level, let's say B1. Okay. And let's just go to generate. Or I could put in an interest for my students. They're interested in the arts. They're a very cultural bunch. Let's click on generate to see what happens. Okay, it will take a few minutes. Thanks for your suggestion, Dora. Okay, and it's how to make a collage. So it's got a collage is a fun, creative way to express yourself. Yeah, it's got what you will need, and then it's got steps there, tips for success, and what to do next. So it's created your kind of instructive text in a quite a good way. I like that. That's it's nice that it's got these big headings and step-by-step approaches and bullet points. If you wanted to refine it, there's an option to refine here. We could refine it and make, say, for example, make the steps more detailed. Refine, it will probably do that. And that looks about appropriate for B1 as well. Okay, so now you can see it's added more detail to my steps here. Okay, if I really like that, I can press on Save Results, and that will save it into a folder so that I can use it later, or I'll come back to it if I want to refine it again, because it's always, after you've used something with a group of students, you may decide this bit was right, this bit was wrong, and you want to change things. So having saved the results, you can reopen them. I have the option now to copy and paste it if I want to, if I wanted to copy it into a Word document. And also there's an export as, so if I want to, I can just export it, and the options are PDF, Microsoft Word, Google Drive, or you could share it directly into a Google Classrooms if you have a Google Classrooms account. I'm not sure. There's a question about the maximum length of the text. In a lot of ways, I think you can change the length up here, but in a lot of ways, it's good to let the AI decide, because it's deciding on level of appropriacy, and depending on the type of text you're suggesting as well, it should produce something that's relevant to the style of text. Like, I mean, I've asked it to refine it, and it's added more details to these steps, but I'm not sure that improves it, actually. I'm not sure, it's done what I've asked, but I'm not sure whether that makes it a better text than the one before, where it was sort of producing probably a much more natural one that relates to a similar type of text. So, I think if it was an essay, for example, it might be more appropriate to extend it and go for full length. If you want to, I can put the length to full. Let's drag this slider. I've dragged it to long, and we'll see how much it produces now if I just click regenerate. We'll see what it does. Okay, server error. Okay, let's. What I'll do is I'll grab this, copy that, and I'll close it and reopen it. And see if that clears it. Okay. Go to long. Generate. This should show us what the kind of length is. Fingers crossed here. It's always one of those moments when you're working with live technology, and you kind of never know what's going to happen. So I think that thing about you could never work with never work with animals and children. It should be never work with animals, children, or technology. It's always risk-taking. So that's kind of, that's gone to a much longer version. Yeah, for me, that's a bit on the long side. I preferred the shorter one. Okay, so now I've got my text. Okay, I'll copy all of that, and we'll look at how we can sort of generate our Q&A questions, multiple choice questions. So here's the multiple choice generator, and again, the information is there. I'll click to use. Okay, and topic, okay, was how to make something. And what I could do with this is, I've forgotten how to make, let's put in the text, how to make a collage. Okay, I could just put in the topic, and it would produce then a kind of more of a general kind of trivia quiz type multiple choice question. So it wouldn't be specifically based around the text, but it would be based around the topic. Again, I can choose level of difficulty. I can choose the number of questions. I can choose the CEFR level. And I've got those optional things about, using a website or something like that, or using a specific text. What I'll do is paste in supporting transcript, which was my text I created last time. And then I'll click on generate, and we'll see what it comes up with. Okay, and it's generated my 6 questions to ask about that. And it's also giving me answers, which is kind of handy as well. It's always worth checking it if you ever use ChatGPT or something like that. Often all the answers are B or all the answers are C, which becomes really annoying because then you have to rearrange them. But it's kind of given a good variety here as well. You can ask it to refine it. I could add more questions as well if I wanted to. And again, I can save it to my folder if I want to, or export it. And now when I export it, there's quite a wide range of things to export it to. So I can export it to as a PDF, Microsoft Word document, Google Drive, Moodle Gift, Moodle Q&A, or Kahoot, or quizzes, which are both Kahoot and quizzes. I'm not sure how many of you use them or your teachers use them. They're kind of good free online things that are very popular to use in class. If we click on Kahoot, then what it does is downloads it as an Excel file, and it saves the questions there. And then we can go to Kahoot and we can open that file. So here's my Kahoot profile. And if I want to create a quiz, then I go to quiz. Okay, and I'll go to blank canvas, add questions. And if I go here to import spreadsheet, I can just find that spreadsheet that I downloaded. So there it is. Thank you, Carly. Oh, sorry, I select a file. Come on. And then I just have to locate that on my hard drive under K. As you can see, I haven't cleaned out my downloads lately. There it is. I'll grab that one. Open. Upload. Add questions. Okay, and here I've got my Kahoot quiz ready. Okay, and so that's ready in just a few moments. That's a great way to create interaction around it. If I go back to this and decide I want something else, what I could do is, I was looking earlier on at this article by Ed Sheeran on the BBC. It's something that's just appeared today. If I go to TeacherMatic then, and I close that, I'll reopen it. I can quickly produce something that's sort of totally current and up to date for my students, just by, instead of that transcript, I can type in my copy and paste in my link here. What I'll also do to make sure that it takes from this article is put in the title as well. Copy, okay. Go there. I'll put in the title too. I'll put 6 questions, level B1, and now this time it should generate me some questions that are about that article. Okay, so where's Ed Sheeran's exhibition of painting being held? In a car park. So if I wanted to do something that was totally current, didn't have much time to plan, all I've got to do is grab a link from a news article or something that's new online, put it in there, generate some questions, and I've instantly got a message, a lesson or a warm-up for my students that's totally current. And again, I can save that one come back to it, use it later if I want to, or export it and have it as something like a Kahoot that they do for homework or something like that. Okay, so that's a bit of a quick run through of those two different generators.
For the next webinar in the series, we're taking a very short summer break in August, also to give time for all the teachers and the managers, because we're aware that this is holiday season. So in August, we won't be having a webinar, but the next one in the series will be on Thursday, the 11th of September at the same time. And you can already register your place if you want. I'm just dropping the link in the chat here, just in case you want to save your place for it. The topic is not defined yet, but more details will follow. So just make sure that you secure your spot for it. And I think that's it for today. So thank you very much for joining us. It was great to have you here. Thank you very much, Nik.
Thank you.
For showing all the examples and what these two generators can do for language educators. And we look forward to connecting with you again very soon in September. So just make sure you reserve your spot for it.